All right, everybody, welcome back. Welcome back. Socially Connected 360, episode 3. In the house, I have my good friend, my brother from another, Sam Del Rosario. We worked on some projects together, especially when Puerto Rico hit. And I'm so honored to have him on the show. But before that, please subscribe. Find us on YouTube, Socially Connected 360. Find us on all the platforms. As you know, we want to stay connected with all of you. We'll show you love, you show us love, and we're going to connect you with a wonderful man here today who has done wonderful things in our community, nationwide. Sam Del Rosario, entrepreneur, business coach, wealth determiner. I mean, you name it, worked in government. I mean, this guy's been there. This is a great connect for all of you, been a great connect for me. And so let's begin. Sam.
What's up?
My man, I seen you hanging out with some tremendous influencers. But first of all, how you been? How's your family? How you doing? How's everything going?
We're doing good, man. We're coming up on the spring market. Absolute pleasure to be here with you, Louis. You know, I watch you. I seen what you're doing. I know you're out in the community. I watch your videos. Big fan of your work and LDG, you know, and leadership. And so, no, we're excited. You know, family's doing great. Kids are growing up, you know, eating me out of house and home like most families, right? And then, you know, we're in the throes of the spring market. Spring's around the corner. So we're excited to really get this real estate season up and running. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk about the topic we have today, and I'm looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, man, this topic for me is like it has to be top 2, right?
Yeah.
Success and fear of failure, right? So there's a lot of things we could talk about that, right? You could be successful in a lot of ways. Success can mean different things for different people, right? So tell me what you feel is success to you.
You know, it's an evolving topic, right? If you think about it, one of the things that I do every day is I get people who are on their second, third career. Some of them aren't happy where they're at. Some of them are just looking for a way out, right? If you think about it, a lot of people come into real estate because, you know, it always looks easier on the outside. That's first and foremost. But the second is, you know, they see it as an opportunity to get out of their situation or to find success, right? And like you said, success is relative. So my version of success, your version of success is going to be different. You know, we like to talk about success being a well-rounded individual, you know, spiritual success, mental success, you know, having that growth mindset, physically being in the best shape of your life, you know, making sure that you're happy with your mind, body, spirit, because we know, and there's a saying we have here in our company, Keller Williams, which is that your business will grow to the extent that you do personally. So anything you embark on in life requires that you personally be satisfied and successful with yourself. And you commit to self-mastery before you go out there in the world and try to branch out and be successful in that kind of whatever arena you're embarking on, whatever you're doing. Success means being well aware of who you are. And I think that's a huge part of success. And I think the definition is changing. But the number one thing about success is you have to first be satisfied with yourself. And I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. So I seen you kind of, I watched your work. I worked with you when we worked on the initiative for Puerto Rico when they got hit. I seen you lead that charge with Councilwoman Olga Negron. You asked me to be part of that. Obviously, I knew you before that. You worked in government, and you kind of, what I've noticed in watching you, and it's been very inspiring, by the way.
Thank you.
To reinvent yourself. And I don't know if that's the right term, because maybe, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you reinvent yourself, but that was always inside you, right?
Yeah.
But how does that, if somebody has to reinvent themselves when it comes to either, like you said, shifting to a new career, third career, how did you do that? How did you manage to do that?
So, you know, as you know, we both worked in government, and, you know, for many years, I thought that I knew what I wanted to be. And I always joke around, even to this age at 42, I always tell people I'm still waiting to, you know, when I grow up, I'm going to be this. It's a joke, right? When I grow up, I'm going to be this, right? And I think most of us, you know, we talk about living a life of there's a quote that says, you know, people often live a life of silent desperation. And I think the transition for me was, you know, I think you could chalk it up to midlife crisis, but I think what happened is I started realizing that I was unhappy with what I was doing. I wasn't unhappy with what I did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was unhappy with who I was becoming.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I think the transition was not necessarily about what I was actually doing, because I did enjoy what I did, and for those
Yeah.
of you that know,
Oh,
I was,
I know.
yeah,
You were
I enjoyed the
fully involved.
job. And
Fully involved.
So I enjoyed it. I think what happened is you come to a time in your life where you realize that you're not living your authentic self.
Oh.
And I think sometimes, we have to live our authentic self and recognize that maybe what we're doing, as hard as we're pushing, as hard as we're trying to make way in the current atmosphere we're in, the environment within, Jim Rohn, one of the most famous motivational speakers out there, used to say, don't wish things were better, wish you were better.
Oh.
And so I began believing that. I started listening to these books. I started listening to John Maxwell, to Jim Rohn, to Zig Ziglar, See You at the Top. I started listening to Dean Graziosi. I started watching Impact Theory online with Tom Bilyeu. And all the things that I've listened to about success said the same thing: is you have to be your authentic self. You have to be vulnerable sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so when you talk about reinventing yourself, I don't think I was reinventing myself, and I don't think I have reinvented myself. I think what I'm living now is who I am.
Oh.
And I'm unafraid of being who I am today. Whereas before, as you know, in an environment where everything's about seniority and time and who you know, your real self often gets suppressed by the politics of the day.
We live
right?
We're living that. A lot of organizations are like that.
So you got to escape the shackles of that environment.
Wow.
And recognize that the only person opinion who should matter in your life is yourself, right? Your opinion of yourself is more important than anybody's opinion of you.
I pray that is huge, man. That is tremendously huge. I completely, and it's lately, because I see you working out like at 5 o'clock in the morning. I see you doing your thing. You're looking great.
Trying.
So on my workouts and my runs, I start thinking about everything you just said, man.
Yeah.
And it's so real, it's so real. And it's so important that we go out there. But that fear, right? There's always that fear, especially if you work in government or you have a job or you have money coming in. I think sometimes we're strapped because we're getting that paycheck every 2 weeks.
Oh man, comfort.
Yeah. So how do we conquer that fear to get to that successful moment?
It's funny you say that. A friend of mine just gave me this bracelet, and on this bracelet she created, it's a little bracelet there, and there's a word on it, and the word is worthy. Wow. So the word that she put down, because she knows me really well, she says, you are worthy. And she gave me that to remind me every day, because each of us have a question we tell ourselves every day. Every day you ask yourself a question. Tony Robbins talks about this. It's called your primary question. It's the question you ask yourself every day. And it's basically things like, am I worthy? Do I deserve the success that I'm getting? Is this all that there is to my life? Right? And what happens is when you start asking yourself questions, you start doubting, you almost put limiting beliefs on yourself. And I think the biggest thing is removing those limiting beliefs by recognizing that you're asking the wrong questions.
Oh. Here we go.
So you got to ask better questions, and you have to understand that the universe will provide if you ask the right questions, right? So Tony Robbins has this saying, he talks about this, he said, most people say they want more money in their life. So what Tony would say in his seminar, and I've been to his seminar, it's been great. I'm a firewalker. I'm super proud. I
saw you, man. I see you everywhere with these guys.
I was there with Pitbull. It was awesome.
Billionaires and millionaires. I'm like, man, your circle's pretty good, man.
Well, again, you are the sum of the 5 people you surround yourself with.
Amen.
It's that simple. So if you're unsatisfied with your life, take a look at who you're around every day. And if everybody around you is not as smart as you, is everybody around you negative, if everybody around you are heavier in weight, you're probably plus or minus 10 pounds within that world.
Yeah.
Because your environment affects you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right. And so you ask the question, I think, going back to the question that you asked is, how you overcome that. And I think is you have to ask the right question. Instead of why me, why don't you ask yourself, why not me? Right. Why don't you move forward and say, I am worthy? And I think people have fear is a genuine response, but Zig Ziglar would say, fear is false evidence appearing real.
Wow.
We often are fearful of things that have yet to occur. So we talk ourselves out of things internally because of our fear, whether it's fear of disclosure, revealing your true self, and you're afraid that it's going to get out and people are going to know who you really are, right? It's fear of risk, right? You're afraid of taking a chance. Yeah. But the problem with comfort, which is what you're referring to, when you put yourself in an environment where a paycheck is all that keeps you, there's a saying in real estate that in the absence of value, it always comes down to money. So when you're receiving no value, money is the only thing that keeps you. And so the problem is money oftentimes is not an end, it's a means to an end. But we live our lives with this kind of concept that we need money. You don't need money. Money is not the end. You are trying to get an emotion, right? So you're using money as a vehicle to get to whatever state you want to be in, whether it's happiness, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's success. And what happens is most people think money is the end, and it's not. It's means to an end. And I will tell you, Gary Keller, our chairman and CEO, has always said, money is only good for the good it can do. And if you're not doing good with money, what's the use having it?
That's amazing. And again, this is why we need to have these conversations.
Absolutely.
Because you can't reiterate it enough. I say it on my morning runs, when I do my morning reflections and I share my runs after runs after run after run. I say it all the time. I enjoy that code. That I want to be uncomfortable. Like you got to get that mindset where that uncomfortableness is something that calls you, right? But you're right. I think that comfort conquers a lot of people. I'm reaching that level now where I'm 41 years old and I'm asking a lot of questions. And the questions, and one of the main questions is, how did I get here? How did I get to this moment? Where I'm starting to think a different way. If somebody wanted to really reinvent themselves or try to get to that point where they're wanting to start over, what would be the number one, not the number one thing, but what would be a good piece of advice? Because I don't know what would be a good piece of advice that you would give to that person? Like you were coaching them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to challenge you about the language that you use in that moment and say, how did I get to this way? Because that's a question that I would say you're asking the wrong question of yourself.
Here we go. That's why we have these conversations.
So if I were coaching you, I would say, Louis, the question is not how did you get to this point, but how can I use what I've learned and what's got me to this point to get to the next level of who I am? Because who you are today is not who you need to be 10 years from now. Ooh. Who you will be 5 years from now is not who you are today. Otherwise, you would already be where you're supposed to be. So the reality is you need to. So I always tell people, don't wish you can go back in the past. Now, don't get me wrong. I do it sometimes too, where I tell myself,
that's human.
Yeah, I tell myself, man, listen, and all of you listening will know this. There's times where I sat back and said to myself, man, if I knew then what I know now, boy, would things be different. Ooh. But here's the actual caveat of that, right? The caveat of that is you wouldn't even have the cognitive ability to understand what you know today had you not been through what you've been through.
I need to get part of your team, man. We got because if you're speaking to me on this show today about this stuff and you're making my mind like just completely shift.
This is what we do.
I guarantee you on a daily, that's what's happening on your team.
Well, I will tell you, and this is a daily conversation. I hold a call every morning. We call it the morning huddle. And every day we have this conversation. But to answer your question, my advice to somebody who's looking to recreate themselves or change their life is this. Mm-hmm. You need clarity. You need to make a decision that at the end of whatever journey you planning on taking, right? Whatever that is, you need clarity of what that looks like. You know, you need to have a clear mind. You need to feel it. You need to smell it. You need to taste it. You need to say to yourself in 5 years, in 10 years, I'm going to be this. And not only am I going to be this, but I feel this way, right? So we have a talent process where we tell people, we ask them this question during our career visioning, which is, believe it or not, it's almost like a background investigation, but it's career visioning. One of the questions we ask is, if in 5 years I run into you in the hallway, Lewis, and I look at you and I say, hey, how's it going? And you turn to me and you say, man, it's amazing. And I look at you and say, well, what does amazing mean to you? Mm-hmm. What would amazing be to each and every one of you out there in 5 years? And when I say that, I mean, what does it look like? What does amazing look like? Do you have a bigger house?
Yeah.
Do you have a better car? Mm-hmm. Is your family playing in the pool? Are you having a barbecue in the backyard of your brand new home that's $400,000 with an in-ground pool, and you're just enjoying it? You could smell the burgers cooking on the grill. You could see the kids splashing in the water. You can hear them screaming and playing and laughing. Your friends are laughing. Everybody's got a beer in their hand. Or you have the perfect job where you're the CEO or you're the head of a company or a team, and you just launched your third product and you are excited about what the opportunities of that product launch is going to be for you. What does awesome mean to you? And so the first step in any journey of recreation, and I don't even say creation, living your authentic self, is, what does the authentic you look like? And then you have to create a plan, right? So there is this thing, again, I refer back, I'm coached. I have a coach that coaches me. It's through Tony Robbins, Tony Robbins International. My coach talks to me all the time about this. And so I too, because everybody needs to be leveled up by somebody who's higher than them. One of the things that everybody needs to realize is that you don't know everything. Your perception is limited based on what you've experienced. And guess what? Your experience is limited. What you've been through in your life, however good, bad, indifferent, whatever happened, is still limited. The whole world has various experiences and you can learn from everybody. And so the reality is that to get to the next level of who you are, or whoever's listening, is you have to be coached to that next level by somebody who's already there or can get you there, right? And so the first step is clarity. Have clarity about your goals. Understand what it is, what it looks like, what it tastes like, what it smells like. Create a vision board. Take those pictures. Download pictures. If you say you want a nice car, what kind of car? Be specific. Be specific. If you want money, how much money? If you want the kids to go to college, what college? What's the picture of the school? Put it on your vision board, right? And so you have this board you look at every day, and then you create a plan, which is where most people stop. A plan is simply steps to achieve whatever it is you set out in that clarity and that vision you have. But see, the final step that I think most people miss out on is what we call massive action. See, what happens is most people will have a vision of what they want, but then they tell themselves they're unworthy of it, right? Or they may start a plan, but never complete it because they're fearful of what could happen, all right? And they talk themselves out of it. And so most never take action. See, we don't have a problem with dreaming. We don't have a problem of envisioning what our future will be like. Most times we have a problem with actually taking action towards it. And there's a great quote out there, and it says, even the smallest action always beats the best intention.
Wow.
So you can intend to do something, but my small action will always beat your intention. So you can talk about it. I'm going to be about it. And that's the difference between the successful and the unsuccessful.
And again, we talk about movement, right? We talk about movement on a daily, and sometimes we wonder, we're like, man, doing all this movement, I'm making moves. I feel like I'm making moves. And I think sometimes I struggle with that. And a lot of us struggle with that. But what like you said, man, you gotta create that action. That action has to be number one, but yeah, man, that's deep. That's deep. So you say you have these meetings with your team. And so you, what is your team? How do they buy into this? Do they buy into it? Do they feel like they're growing? Is it a collective growth, or how is their reaction to this? Because it would be phenomenal if we could have these huddle meetings where I'm at right now.
So that's a great question. And I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to tell you, just like your audience, like everything in life, not everybody takes part, right? So there's this principle called the 80-20 rule.
Ah.
And the 80-20 rule, if you've been, remember from school, it was called the Pareto principle. And basically what it said is that 20% of the workers, or however you want to define it, but 80% of the activities done, or 80% of the results are done by 20% of the people. And if you look across organizations, whether it's a police department, a government agency, a business, 20% of the workforce do 80% of the work.
Wow.
And this is a proven principle. It started with Wilfredo Pareto back in Italy when he determined and he learned by looking around and realized that 20% of the land owned in Italy, or 80% of the land in Italy, was owned by 20% of the population.
Wow.
And so when he started researching that across multiple businesses, he realized that, well, that's true across many domains, that really 20% is doing most of the heavy lifting in society. And so unfortunately, like anything, 20% of my agents participate.
Mm-hmm.
And the 60% just exist, and then there's 20% are not there,
Yeah.
right? And so, there's a saying, there's a Chinese proverb that says, when a student is ready, the master shall appear. So you can do these podcasts, and I will tell you, everything you say will resonate. Every interview will be powerful. And I know that because I've listened to the other two you had.
Yeah.
And your goal, which it should be everybody's, is one of those podcasts. It could happen at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Somebody's going to listen to it, and the student will be ready.
Yeah.
And the master is going to be your podcast. And the master is going to speak to that person at a level that they've never been spoken to before. And it's not a message that's any different than they've heard a million times before. What happened is they weren't ready to receive the message at a level of understanding that they needed to take action. And so, again, most people, just like our agents, just like anybody, when the student is ready, the master shall appear, which is why the master is always teaching, because somebody's going to get it, right?
That's awesome, man.
So it's a powerful thing. And it's true. It's true. You can say it any which way, but one day somebody's going to get it. And my hope every day when I have these calls is that I get through the one person. And that one person, my voice resonates in their mind during the day, and they take action with something I said, and it makes their life better. And that's the goal, because I don't care whether they listen, because I'm going to still contribute. I don't base my opinion of my success on what other people think. I base it on what I think, which is why I do it every day regardless.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's what it's got to be. I mean, I did, especially when you get older, man. And that's why I like talking to younger folks, because I want to reach them, because I see a little bit of myself in them, and I'm like, man, if you could hear this now, take advantage of all this knowledge and basically teaching, you'll be way better off. Way better off.
We call it modeling. It's modeling, right? So you're an example of success. And what I would tell a young person is, if you want to achieve to the level that you're achieving, you model his behavior. See, the fastest way from A to B is a straight line. And so what you need to do is find somebody who's already at the level you want to be at. Yeah. And then you want to model what they did to get there. And that's what you need to do. The problem is we try to be creative. We want to reinvent the wheel when the wheel's already been created.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Think about it. Right.
We say it all the time. I mean.
Yeah. I mean, think about, somebody new, they think they know better. Right. Experience helps you understand. Here's the problem, right? Success is a lousy teacher, right? Because it makes smart people believe that they can't fail. Right. And so unfortunately, what people don't understand is failure is part of success. Without it, you cannot be successful. Whoever said failure is not an option never succeeded at anything in their life.
Listen up, folks. Listen up. Right now. If your fear of failure is what it is to get to be successful, you don't have to fear, because you're going to fail, and that is part of success.
And somebody's telling you that fear is not an option. If somebody's quoting to you, fear is not an option, I'm never going to fail, then they've never done anything successful in their life. Because guess what? Success can only come from failure, because failure is the best teacher. And it also exposes who you really are. And when you learn from it, it's only a failure if you live in it. But if you learn from it, it's not a failure. It's simply a learning opportunity.
So let's shift a little bit of gears here. So you Keller Williams, I noticed there's something interesting about Keller Williams. Is there a book involved or some type of
Yeah.
motivational background to this? And how did you get involved with Keller Williams? Because there's tons of real estate agencies
I
and
love it.
firms.
I love it.
So,
Yeah. And I didn't pay for him to ask me this, just so everybody knows.
Because you've mentioned it before, and it's very inspiring, actually. And so I think it's kind of like what we're kind of talking about today. So let us know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I appreciate that, and this is not a plug for Keller Williams, but I didn't start there, right?
So I think by Keller Williams.
Yeah. so I didn't start there. Just so everybody knows, I came from another agency, which is a good agency, good people, and certainly opportunity. I think what resonated to me more than money, by the way, more than money was the leadership opportunity and the conversation about wealth. Being authentic with you on this call, one of the things I'm going to share with you is as you, just like you, I grew up in the South Bronx. My mom died when I was 8 years old of AIDS, when AIDS was the thing to die from back then in 1988. And I never met my father. And I always tell people, that's the typical New York City story, because I wasn't unique in that respect. Many people in my neighborhood experienced the same childhood. Wow. But I think, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I said that was powerful because of who the person that you are today. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it informs the current position right now. Why Keller Williams? It's a long way to get to it, but here's what I'm going to tell you. All of you, just like myself, I have a poor mindset about money, and I grew up with a poor mindset. See, when you grow up in a lifestyle in a childhood where everything was fought about money, when money was a domestic issue, where people fought over, not because they wanted to take care of you because they loved you, but because they wanted to take care of you because you came with a Social Security check.
Oh, listen up.
Your view of money is skewed. You believe wealth is unattainable. You're not worthy, right? Because wealth has always been a fight. It wasn't about wealth. It was about who had money, and money was always something that was terrible in my life. And I'm going to tell you, my first 2 years in real estate was I was successful, but I was financially poor.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a wealth mindset. I didn't have the financial intelligence to get me to the next evolution of who I needed to be, and to understand that wealth is a lifestyle. It's an idea. It's something that is attainable to anybody. Anybody can attain wealth when you understand the rules of money and the pathway to money. And so what got me to Keller Williams was this famous book. And it was, again, the association of people who were more successful than I am. And I got around them. And I will tell you, the recruiting conversation, the guy who was talking to me is a successful owner, not just an agent, an owner. And he looked at me in my face and said, "You're broke, aren't you?" And it hit me. He was right. He was right. He said, "You sold a lot of real estate, but you have no financial intelligence."
Wow.
And
you needed that, though. You needed that.
I did. I needed somebody to check me and say, your numbers are great, but your bank account isn't. And this is why, because you don't run a business, you just have a job. Ooh. And so what he said to me was, you were treating this industry and this position like it's a job, when you don't understand that this is a business if you want it to be. And so the conversation revolved around, how can I build a business, not just have another job? I just left a job. Yeah. And so I was treating this endeavor as a job. And what I didn't realize is that you can't bring a 9-to-5 mindset in an entrepreneurial endeavor. And so, it goes back to Eric Thomas, the E.T., the hip hop preacher. He used to say that the lion can't hunt only between 9 and 5. The lion hunts when the gazelle is available.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And so most people come into this mindset. So Keller Williams has this wonderful book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And again, I've read it several times, probably 4 times already. They actually recommend you read it 12. Oh, and wow. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, ironically, is called the Millionaire Real Estate Agent because it plays on the psychology of most people. You see, the most purchased books about money have the word millionaire in the title.
Oh, people don't know that, but now you know.
People don't know that. So the most purchased books about money have the word millionaire in the title. And so what Gary said is he put millionaire real estate agent because nobody's going to buy the $100 agent. But the truth of the book is that it's not the fact of attaining $1 million that's important. Here's the lesson. It's who you had to become to create $1 million.
Oh,
You see, because we can give $1 million to everybody in Allentown.
yeah.
And the money will end up back in the 1% who already know how to create $1 million, because they have the habits of a millionaire. And so you can't bring a $40,000 a year mindset to $1 million deal.
Amazing.
And so that's what the book talks about. The first half is mindset, because 90% of success is up here. 10% is actually doing.
Wow.
And we understand that. And so that's the conversation. That's the evolution. That's the level we talk at for those that want to listen. Because remember that when the student is ready, the master shall appear. Not everybody listens to that message.
So true. So true. We don't have the conversations. I talked about in my previous podcast, man. We don't talk about money. We don't talk about how budgets. We don't talk about how to manage even governments and everything. You know, the people are we're just not there. We're not there.
Well,
and
how many people got their stimulus checks?
A lot.
Right. And so think about this. How many people got their stimulus checks or their stimmy money? This is my favorite post today, is stimmy. Everybody's calling that stimmy money.
Yeah.
Right? How many people are going to take that $1,400 per person and go waste it at Walmart?
A lot.
Right?
We got Walmart knows it too, because they put their TVs. If you get $700, if they get a stimulus for $700,
rollback prices at Walmart.
They know that the rollback's gonna be $6.99.
Listen, that stimmy money is burning holes in people's pockets.
Yeah.
But here's how the wealthy think. One, there's no such thing as free. There's always a catch to anything you get in life.
Absolutely.
And number two, rather than go spend that money, you can invest that money. You can use it to maybe take that class to get your real estate license, right? Because there's an entrepreneurial opportunity in our industry that you can join. Or maybe there's an industry or trade school that you can take $1,400 or $600 and you can go take a seminar and test out, you know, how to be a plumber or welder or HVAC technician. Because I'm going to tell you, I can't even find people sometimes to do some of the work that I need with some of my clients. So you know, we created our view of money, and unfortunately, you know, it resonated with me. There's a gentleman by the name of Morgan Housel. He wrote the book Psychology of Money, and one of the things he talked about: did you know that the average person spends $452 on lottery tickets every year?
Wow. How much?
Did you know $452 on lottery tickets?
Jesus Lord.
So that's not even the point. The point is this: did you know who purchased the most? Who are the group of people that purchases the most lottery tickets a year?
I won't even.
It's the poor.
Wow.
Right? So the wealthy don't buy tickets like that, right? The poor buys tickets, and they spend $452 on lottery tickets.
Wow.
For a chance at $1 million.
Yeah.
Instead of reinvesting that money into something that's going to help them be creative or invest, and you can't judge them, because one of the things about the book it talks about is that until you've been poor, you don't understand the mindset of a poor person.
Yeah, their struggles. Yeah.
You don't know what their struggles are. So you can't be judgmental. And this isn't a judgment on them. What it says, though, is the psychology, and I've had this psychology my whole life, is of that of a poor person, that I always think in scarcity, that money's going to disappear. So I need to do something, or I'm looking for that get rich quick scheme.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact is it's neither, right? It's an abundance mindset. It's doing the right things. It's having clarity on what you want, making a plan and taking massive action. And if you do that, you wouldn't need to spend $452 on lottery tickets a year.
Yeah. You don't have to be afraid of being successful then. That's the topic of the show today. You know what I mean?
So I mean, think about that, is that we grow up, when you grow up with money as being a critical of one of the reasons why your family fights is over money, then your view of money is skewed. It's wrong.
Yeah.
It's not, money isn't the root of all evil. Money just simply exposes who you are deep inside.
Oh, so true.
That's it.
So true.
It's like alcohol, you know, it's, you know, people blame alcohol, but no, the person who's drinking is the person at fault.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Man. We could talk 3 hours on this topic, but
I love it. No, I'm super. I love it. I love the conversation, and I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's awesome, man. Keller Williams. I always see you doing good stuff. I always see you being extremely like what I notice about you and your team and what you're putting out on social media, and what you're putting out on your websites and everything. Everything is super professionally done.
Yeah.
Whether it's a video, whether it's your studio, you have a studio in your
Where
office,
I'm at. Yeah.
in your building there. And so that within itself, that level of focus and that meticulousness, is something that resonates, with me. And I'm sure that, you obviously coming on our show today, our episode today, and talking, all the stuff that you talked about. I mean, it just shows. I mean, not only are you meticulous with all the things that you're putting out, but obviously the conversation we had today. Um, what are some of the, and just a couple more things. What are
Yeah.
some of the resources, if somebody wanted to get involved in entrepreneurship or real estate or be part of your team, something like that? How would they go about that?
The biggest thing is it goes back to, just talking to the right people, asking the right questions. If you have, if you ever aspire to do something in your life, whatever it is, whether it's real estate or anything, do the research, do the homework, right?
Yeah.
But don't fall into that analysis paralysis. Get out there and, not only read about it, but then talk to somebody who's doing it. Like, reach out to an agent. If real estate it is, because that's the industry I'm in, if real estate is something that fascinates you, right? Then call an agent and say, listen, I'd like to know more about what you do on a day-to-day basis. Stop by and shadow someone. Ask to sit down with them. Have conversations with somebody. Because again, success is easy. It's simply success. Nobody ever said success was hard. It's just not easy, right? And I think at the end of the day, what gets most people is the monotony, the day-to-day simple things, the grind. It gets boring. We know that it's the same things every day that gets you to the goal. And some people don't have the stamina to go through it. So you need to have a conversation with somebody. If you tell me I want to be a successful real estate entrepreneur, then what you need to do is identify who the successful entrepreneurs in real estate are in the Valley. You need to pick up the phone aggressively and say, hey, I'd like to meet you. I have an interest in being you one day.
Yeah.
And if you're hungry, then you should have no problem picking up the phone and having that conversation. If you want to be a successful plant manager, if you want to be a radio person, you want to be a podcaster, right?
Yeah.
Pick up the phone and say, hey, I love what you're doing. Yeah. How do I learn about how you do it? And then don't be afraid to have that conversation. So that's the first step in anything, doing research, but more importantly, ask the right questions of people that can help you get there. I always tell people, if you don't know a real estate agent, you probably don't have friends, because everybody's got a license, right? But find somebody who's successful at the level you want to achieve. And not everybody that wears fancy suits is successful. Yeah, I was one of those for a little while.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. So find somebody who genuinely is at the level you want to be at. And then you'll know right away when you start asking questions if this is something you want to be in. And again, you don't know what you're capable of until you experience it. So if you're young, if you're in your 20s listening to this, go out there and just do it. Yeah. Try everything. Take everything by the horns, go do it, because the worst that'll happen is you'll find out that you don't like it. But guess what? You tried it. And until you try something, you won't know what you like and don't like. And I think that's such an important thing. We're so fearful that it's not going to work out. Who cares? Go do it. And who knows what's going to happen on the other side of that comfort zone. You're going to realize that success happens just outside of that comfort zone.
That's the show, folks. That's the show right there. Listen, real quick. Where can we find you? Plug in for us. Where can we, if we want to connect with you, where do we go?
So, I'm with the Keller Williams Allentown office. We're located at 1605 North Cedar Crest Boulevard in Suite 309. I do have an email. I'll gladly share it. It's samdelrosario@kw.com. I'm sure my name is going to be in the description.
Yeah.
Listen, I do speaking engagements for community groups. I do stuff for youth, just like you. I think, sharing our story, which is why you personally, I think, resonate with me so much, and why, I love following you, is that we need to be the examples. You know, a lot of our community, yo soy hispano, yo soy puertorriqueño, right? I'm Spanish, I speak Spanish. We sometimes, what we need to remember is we need to also elevate everybody around us, and we have to work together. And instead of being jealous, instead of being critical, what we need to do is ask the right questions and say, how do I get to where you are? And then we share those lessons. So if you're a successful Hispanic, if you're a successful Latino, African American, whatever you are, one of your priorities, or one of your contribution that you should always be giving back, is sharing the pathway to your success with everybody else. And so I make that my purpose. My purpose is to share with everybody that it's possible. And it's not impossible, because if you break the word impossible and you separate I am from possible, it's I'm possible. Awesome. Right? Awesome. And you know, the greatest compliment, and I'll leave you with this, the greatest compliment I had was with my son. And we were in the car. And as you know, I work government service, and it was several months into it, a year in, I'm successful. I'm doing a lot of sales. And my son looks at me and he says, it's pretty incredible that you were able to leave a job that you held for over 17 years and be successful in this. And I said, my question to him was, what does that say to you? And he looked at me and said, it means I can do anything I set my mind to. Awesome. And so when my son told me that, I knew that I got through to him, not by my words, not by a Facebook post, but by my actions. Because I demonstrated to him, as my son, what a man is supposed to do when success is on the horizon, and you got to do what it takes to be successful. And the greatest compliment I ever received was him when he told me that he listened loud and clear. Through my actions, he learned that anything he wants to do in his life, he can, because his dad showed him the way. And all of us should be the same way for everybody.
Wow. That's powerful, because that's paradigm structure right there. His paradigm was completely influenced by how you were able to reinvent yourself. And you conquered that fear of trying to reinvent yourself, if that makes any sense. So listen, my man, I'm going to bring you back on. I'm going to go on your stuff. I know you do some podcasts. You do.
Yeah. Lehigh Valley Rockstars. Yes, sir.
Rockstars. So we'll plug that in. I want to say thank you. It's been a great honor talking with you today, folks. That's our goal, is to connect you with individuals like Sam, who are out there. And you can see today, this is a man who knows a lot, who has been around a lot of influencers, folks that have been involved and been successful. And, I appreciate you. It's always an honor and a privilege to be in your presence and working with you. We worked really close a couple of years ago for our island. So I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being on our show, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the time.
There you have it, folks. Socially Connected 360, episode 3 in the books. Listen, don't be afraid. Be successful. Go out for that success. Do what you feel is right. And as always, stay connected.